Hi, I am Ann Keniston. I am the author of the recently published book SOMATIC, published by Terrapin Books. I want to thank you for tuning in and also to thank Terrapin for suggesting I make this recording and for publishing my book in such a beautiful way. I'm going to read a few poems from the volume, moving from the beginning to the end. The volume has 4 sections, and it explores overall issues of illness, psychological illness, and physical illness, and the blurred relation between them, as well as losses of different kinds. I'm going to begin with the very first poem in the volume, which is an elegy, as are many of the poems in that first section. Opaque. And then my mother wasn't there, not translucent, then transparent like the girl's hand in the movie. Nor was she diffused or reabsorbed by me, or stored in condensed form for later, or a pure idea just past where I could see. I couldn't cram her into me, not a single fleck, splinter or sweet or painful memory that used to make me cry, nor fill the holes I'd made her make in me. There was no creaking deus ex machina or electronic gizmo to bring her back, though her absence was a thing, immaterial because gone, an idea of the concept of the absence of what was never solid or still, like looking into a camera obscura, which reproduces everything upside down, backward, and inconstantly, the image made of light, unreproducible unless someone chooses a single moment to preserve and undertakes the labor of transcribing it. The next poem I'm going to read is from the volume's second section, and kind of introduces the idea of hysteria, which many of the poems focus on. This is a poem that imagines a scene at the Salpêtrière Hospital, which was a hospital where hysterics were first studied, and indeed hysteria was sort of first identified as a condition. Concordance. Salpêtrière Hospital, Paris, 1880. On Tuesday afternoons, the bodies of mute or paralyzed hysterics twitched, then moaned on cue before a crowd, then all alone made love while mesmerized. A touch or pressure there could make asymptomatic girls convulse, then deliver each from all her symptoms. In photographs, a graceful girl in white raises an arm while falling. Her chemise is loose. The doctors clustered round, hysteria, the sheet they used to shroud, then touch that trembling. No protocol or rubric existed yet to translate what they saw, despite their patient searching for a key or at least a concordance to what they must have known they'd never fully master. Just some words to put beside those gestures, each almost theory disproven by the newest batch of symptoms, till psychoanalysis became a curtain filled with holes and also light. Or else the truth existed somewhere else. Uncured, most girls remained locked in. A few got work in traveling shows, acting out their formerly uncontrollable symptoms before an audience that paid. Crowds still line up to watch the newest pretty girl impelled to go to sleep, then rise up from bed, rigid, cataleptic, like the blurry girls in those old photos, her hands askew and stuck. And then the man, call him magician or doctor of throwing out into the dark, waves his hands to prove there is no transparent shelf or set of ropes, then covers, then makes her disappear, till she emerges from the wings unharmed, which means it's time for everyone to applaud at that old trick made new, then surge into the aisles and go back home to dreams that, if remembered, gesture toward the same old mystery. In mine last night, I stood inside a ring of brambles hidden in wild grass. And then a staircase spiraled up, unanchored, like the stairs in fairy tales or myths. The volume has a section of poems that I call arias that are narrated in the voice of a hysteria, and often in the voice of Anna O, who was the famous first hysteric, and led to many of the theories of hysteria from Freud and others. This poem cites some language from a poem by Anna, whose real name was Bertha Pappenheim, towards the end. Belated. My talisman was always in my hands, seatbelt after a wreck, or just a bit of cloth or voice I sometimes heard. A figurine like those arrayed on my doctor's shelves. Amulet, a charm. A copy of a lost original, he said, which left me free, my thirst a kind of spool of thread I wound up all those years, though the law of memory isn't cling to, but erase, not gradually, but in violent little jolts. Without the aftermath effect, there would have been no dividend or payout, no reason to endure so long. My secret stuck me back to what I yearned to be. Because it was my afterlife, I went in whole hog, let some just invented gizmo expose my pre-existing flaws. I was a string on which a broken bow must play, a violin that wove the light. I mean, delay lit up my screen, revealed soft tissues, all my bones. And that's a poem at the end that turns from the kind of psychoanalytic model with which hysteria was traded to a more recent idea of looking at it on an MRI scan. The final section of poems are poems that are back into the poet's own voice, and I call this section of poems odes. And I was really interested in writing odes to unusual objects, things not often praised. Sycamore. Permit me this redundancy. I dug inside my bone to find the right material, a fastener or dark. Let me join me to myself right here and release my unremarkable heart. In myths, the fleeing girl becomes a tree, the sacred tree, the tree of patience. Again, the sycamore has spilled its bark over the ground. Here is where my invisible begins, at the scar or border, lip, my shore. My little wound has been sewn up with thread. And look, the birds are here, invisible but known. Geese pass over in the night. Here is where I was torn and then remade. It is both raw and smooth. And I'm going to read the final poem in the volume, the final ode, which is called Keatsian. And I was thinking, of course, of Keats's great odes. Yes. The reference to bees comes from Keats's Two Autumn. Keatsian. Again the world imposes itself, impure and redolent, filled with dimming light, those greedy bees, aware and unaware of winter's imminence. As if to die were just to walk into the water fully clothed, the fabric endlessly absorbing that element because that is its purpose. Why not stand a little longer in the shallows, touching the abyss for practice, the clammy, almost bodily feel of whatever's in the dark container? The dying patriarch in movies rasps his gratitude and love, his ruined voice a signal the body is ready. The body's requirements come first and last. Suffering's what's left over, little backwards math problem in which subtraction comes first, unconveyable hand swirl in the air. Thank you so much for listening.